Aurora, these lights will shine upon you. Your aura, your beauty is above you. I guess I should have told you, if only you would listen. I guess I should have seen it, if only you would glisten. I heard you're moving forward, didn't ever want to miss it. If I keep on moving backwards, I won't ever get to witness. A part of my heart keeps getting crisper. It thawed away the drizzling feeling from my teardrops fall like the rain. It hurt me to leave you, but in hindsight you'll fall away. I waited too long, now my wish is just down the drain. Keep messing up. What's up? How we doing? Thank you. There might be a little lag issues potentially. I had, if you can see my Logic Pro screen, it's from the master of my track called Aurora, and I was trying to teach gain staging prior to this because you want the vocal to come in well, and I'll touch on it real quick just in case it had issues. So usually you want it to come in around -12 to -8 decibels. -8's probably like the peak of what you want your vocal audio to come through, and then -12's it's kind of like that range. A lot of my recordings I just made do with it, and I just did my best with EQ and compression to drown out either something that wasn't gain staged properly. Most of them are too low, so it's good to know. But anyways, yeah, I was already streaming for like probably 40 minutes just talking about the bass line and stuff. Maybe I'll talk about the percussion part, which is pretty cool. That'll be something I'll touch on. As I mentioned, very wishy-washy melody. Doesn't really stay in the same place. It goes A, E, F sharp minor, D, E. And the cool thing about the acoustic version, which I like more than the electric one, like them both for different reasons, but when I hit the D which I think is cool because I'm playing the 4 chord in the key of A, which is D, and I'm hammering from the F sharp to the G, which G, for the people who know blues, is the flat 7. It's the flat 7 of that key, and I'm not in the key of A. It's G. So what I did is like it kind of has that bluesy feel, sort of. It's not blues music, but what I do is I'm very big on, does this note fit in the song? And the Mixolydian scale is like you can't really go wrong with it. It kind of emulates, any type of blues. So here. I love that. But yeah, anyways. So A, so 1, 5, 6, 4, flat 7, 5, 4, flat 7, 5, 6, 4, flat 7, 5, 1, 5, 6, 4, flat 7, 5. So I'll do a little theory breakdown. It's in the key of A, which in the circle of fifths, it goes from C, G, D, and A. So it's like 4 steps away. And I love the key of A. It's probably one of my favorite songs is written in the key of A, which is Just Like Heaven for those who are fans of The Cure. Heavily inspired a lot of my songs, and this one especially. So, yeah. So. Make sure there's no questions because I don't have YouTube up right now, just in case people had questions. Okay, nobody has questions. It's cool. Yeah, I'm gonna go over the percussion part. I'm getting ADHD, so let me just break down. Maybe I'll go rhythm, lead, and percussion solo. / bass, whatever. I'll just play. Okay. How do I lower? So I'll talk about the intro. I haven't really discussed it as much. I mean, the drums are kind of loud. Maybe I'll just leave the drums out for now. So sorry if I'm boring you right now. I'm trying to figure out how I want to articulate this. So in the percussion part, what I did was I used claps and my keys to add dynamics to the already existing drums, which honestly, now that I think about it, I should probably just solo the drums and the percussion. So So very simple drum part. 1 and 2 and 3 It's a very simple part. It's just like okay. Yeah, it's just a floor tom pattern. I didn't play it that well because I'm not great at percussive guitar. I have a song where I don't really play percussive. I literally just, you know, I'm like basically Marson without, playing lead on top of percussion. And yeah, but this one in particular is it's just the kick, the snare, and the low tom. Pretty simple drum groove. I'm not a great drummer. That was kind of why I went for a sort of like pedestrian looping type vibe. So it's the same thing. And it only has one fill in it, and it's just da da da. It's literally just the snare and the tom, just like a little quick triplet towards the end of the measure. I can't play it that well for percussive guitar, but yeah, I'm a big fan of the drum groove that I came up with. So, but essentially, I use the keys and the claps to provide that additional percussive feel to it. So I'm just going to solo this for right now. I'll play it from the intro. So So what's cool is if you notice a lot of the transitions between different instrumental sections, so the verse, the bridge, and the chorus, I go for a more dynamic feel. I'll play the drums too, but there's a crash essentially after most transitions of the song. But when I go for something that's moving it, I'll do the key jingle, which is the that you hear, and I'll clap at the same time, and it kind of acts as its own separate thing from the drum kit. But that was like the unique thing that I really love about this song is it kind of combines two elements that, like, one is just me clapping. It's like, like anyone can do that. But what's cool is the girl who the song is actually about. We used to like sing together in the car, and she was that was like kind of my initial spark to want to do music. And essentially I used the clap and the keys to like emulate, like, here, like, let's go to the car, or like, let's go to the car, let's sing, like, let's find that love again that was once there. But it's a song about unrequited love, so it's not really there anymore. And the keys kind of emulate, like, oh, the section's changed because the chords are, it's kind of switching chords fast. And then once it moves, it's like, and then it goes, with the key jingle at the same time. I just thought it was cool. And then for for like less dynamic ones, so in the chorus, I didn't include the key jingle because it kind of sets up the instrumental part.
You. I guess I should have told you, if only you would listen. I guess I should have seen it, if only you would glisten. I heard you're moving forward, you never wanna miss it. If I keep on moving backward, I won't ever get to witness.
So before I go into the bridge, I'll mention this. The reason why I didn't I only did claps for instrumental 1 versus instrumental 2 is when you think about it from like a drummer's perspective, you want to move the song. And since it's like a looped progression and it's just, kick, snare, I'd have to solo it. I don't want to do it right now. But since it's like a simple groove, I wanted to add something that emulates kind of like a hi-hat / like a, an alternate snare type sound. And that's like what claps can sometimes emulate, or snapping. And since it's leading towards the bridge, which is probably the most dynamic portion of the song, since it's like resolving the looped chord progression in the key of A, and you're switching over to, B minor 7, F sharp minor 7, C sharp minor 7, F sharp, C sharp minor, B minor, F sharp minor, C sharp minor. I waited too long now, my wish is just down the drain. Oh, God. And it kind of like resolves. So it's good to think about, like, since you don't have a band, you want to kind of emulate what a real musician or a real drummer would think about in different scenarios. So building tension, and then towards the end it's kind of resolving. And the solo, I'll just play through the solo. This is my favorite.
Wish is just down the drain.
I love that. But I'm not going to like boast about what I actually did, because one, the solo is very hard to play. Something that I would have to practice again because I'm very rusty at guitar. I worked on a full-length album for 3 years, basically locked myself in my room and just was, trying to make album of the year essentially, and that wasn't the case. But I had fun. It was enjoyable, and let me talk more about the solo though. And if I had the actual sheet music, I would explain. Maybe I'll explain dynamics. So initially, the song. Let me pull up the solo. So lead guitar. The initial master of the song kind of stayed flat in a way. I didn't boost the lead once I got to the from like bridge lead to the solo part. I dropped this by a decibel, so it kind of sounds more even. But I mentioned in the previous stream before, um, I took inspiration to want to remaster this track because of there's a song called High and Dry by Radiohead, and they build from the second verse after the chorus with like lead guitar, and then it goes through the chorus and then it goes right to the solo, and then the solo kind of like lifts. And that was something that I noticed, that is like, yeah, even though you could hear all the notes clearly, it's good to add dynamics because it's signalizing the end of the song. And there's no more lyrics, and I was like, wait, why didn't I boost this? Because it's like the bridge is kind of buried and then it's like lifting up. It's like, oh yeah, the tension is resolved. And yeah, that was something I didn't know, and I wanted to teach that right now because when you're making music, it's like you don't always have to keep everything at the same level. Like you can add difference in dynamics to move sections along. And when listening back to it, I I felt like, wow, this makes a difference. Like the solo doesn't sound buried, and it it signals the song well. I'm still working on how I want these two phrases to go. So if you're in the chat, like let me know if which one of these two notes like sounds worse in a way, cuz like I'm somebody that if I'm playing a lead part, I want them to like every note that they hear. Like I want it to sound like a cohesive note or something that's like musical. Like I don't want it to like I'm trying to think of an example like something that doesn't sound like a fretted note. So let me just play it. I'll play it right through here. So So this was the note that was driving me crazy yesterday. Because one thing you have to know is there's sometimes something can sound good on headphones, but when you alternate between your testing on your phone, testing in the car, or testing with like AirPods or something that's like not as you're not gonna hear as much of the interactions between stuff. That was pretty bad the way I said that, but yeah, like essentially when I was listening to the car yesterday, I was like, wow, this note kind of like lingers on too long. And I'm somebody that like when they hear, for me, that's like the outro section is just like a repeat. It's like, wow, because the song's about this. It's like an alias. It's Aurora or whatever. Like I wanted it to be like, oh wow, you didn't you didn't listen to me play guitar. Let me just spam notes at the end. But yeah, I think what's cool to know is if you're automating a solo, you want to make sure that however the note like behaves, you can either boost it, which sometimes I will do. Like I switched between these two edits, I believe. So initially it was downsloped and then it became up. So the notes kind of like decreasing in volume versus increasing. And sometimes it fills up the space better. And then other times it gets in the way. And that's part of like listening back through the mix or whatever is like, okay, does everything sound good, or is something getting masked because something's overemphasized? And this was the hardest decision to make when doing the remaster, was like, does that note linger on too much to draw attention away from the song ending, or does it kind of, you know, fit the vibe of the song? And I haven't made that executive decision yet. I might show you all the original master of what I did, but yeah, it's solos are probably the biggest pain. Especially something with a lot of notes, and that was something with a lot. So for the drums, the other edit that I made on the master, which I talked about previously, aside from the solo lift, is in the EQ region. And I mentioned earlier, this is like the unintelligible. This is like punch, body, box, presence, harshness, kind of like tinniness, airiness. Those sibilants, sibilants, and it's kind of like 10K. Yeah, it's like, it's hard to describe. It's like glossy. It's like, once you pass the sibilance harshness region, it's like glossier version of presence / sibilance to like the airiness up here. And specifically, the initial version, I wanted it to sound like a pillow, like the kick. So I'll show you real quick. So I'll play it here. So something that like dampens more the kick. What I liked about the original is it has sort of like a papery snare. Like, it doesn't sound like one cohesive note. And when I added more punch, which it sounds right, / like muddy low end to provide more width to the song. It kind of goes from like ba ba to boom boom ba boom. You're adding more boom. Like, that's like essentially the point of what I did, was the kick, which I wasn't a drummer, or like I own drums, know how to play, but I didn't think about things from the perspective that the kick is what drives the song. And I think that's important when you're producing drums, is like, yes, you want it to sound dampened to a certain degree, but you also don't want it to lose, you don't want to lose too much low end. And initially with my original balance, I kind of cut it out, so it was more atmospheric, and the crash kind of became the driver of the song, which that's not a bad thing. But yeah, with this one, I wanted it to think the drums to sound more cohesive, not like the kicks being drowned out. And yeah, in doing so, it allows for other stuff to kind of fit in better, and it made the snare a little bit more cohesive. It still sounds kind of like janky. I don't know if that's the right word for it, but it allowed for the snare to not sound as papery. So it's like, not only did I get that oomph to support any type of drive, so that the listener doesn't get bored of like lack of energy or anything, but it allowed for the snare to sound more cohesive, so it just doesn't sound like noise. There's kind of like two philosophies of a snare. Is like, oh yeah, you're tuning it so it sounds like a note, or you're just like, you're playing it so it sounds like something that adds to the dynamics of the song. And since I didn't know how to tune drums when when I wrote this drum part, it's not tuned, and I wanted it to show in a way, but I felt it was more important to, and actually let me compare the two, because the verse is probably the most telltale sign of like how it was affected. So I'll probably like halfway through I'll flip between.
If only you would listen, I guess I should have seen it. If only you would glisten, I heard you're moving forward. You never wanna miss it. If I keep on moving backwards, I won't ever get to witness. Guess I should've told you, if only you would listen. I guess I should've seen it, if only you would glisten. I heard you're moving forward, you never wanna miss it. If I keep on moving backwards, I won't ever get to witness.
So you can kind of hear how, like, my initial intention, because bass and guitar were my first two instruments, I believe so, or piano was my first instrument. They were probably the first instruments that, like, I was proficient at, and I wanted it to show. Like, I wanted people to hear the but in, like, the master, in increasing the snare and the kick, like making it sound more cohesive, it allowed for things to support each other better. Like, it sounds more glued, and I think that's when if you mix and master your own music, you want it to sound glued. And my initial philosophy when I was mixing, it was like, no, you want to hear everything. It's like, yes, you want to hear everything unless it's intentionally masked for to add, like, ambience, which I didn't do that in this song, but in doing so, when I made that adjustment, the bass doesn't sound like it's in its own space. Like, it sounds like it's cohesive with the kit. Like, you hear the drum in the low end, and then kind of in that body punchy region, you're like, oh yeah, the bass is just like, it's sitting right there. And then I hear this kind of loosely, rather than it's like it's driving the song. And with the bass line, like, it helps because it's basically looped until the bridge, and then it's the same thing as the solo. So messed up. Just messing around. But essentially, what's cool is, for this song particularly, I wanted to do kind of like a loop bass line, and the original one was just this. And then it became. So I'll break it down by notes. So A, G sharp, A, G sharp, F sharp, E, E, do, do, do. I'm not going to tell you the sharps. You're going to have to assume. It's in the key of A, so I'm going to say the notes. So A, G, G, A, G, F, F, E, E, F, G, A, G, G, A. What is this? A, G, G. That's D, C, B. A, G, G, A, B. So yeah, when you're writing a bass line, especially if it's like something that you want to be easy to play, and that was the goal, was I wanted this to be like a song that if I'm gonna have a jam session or whatever, like, it could be easy to pick up on. And with the initial one, it doesn't really like move the song that well. It just sounds like somebody playing the same thing over again. But when, you know, in the second part, so this is the one, this is the diminished note, this is the relative minor, I believe this is F sharp, the major E, and then the 2, which is the B. So like I'm always staying in the key of A. But it sounds so much better than just this. So yeah, if hopefully that benefited somebody, but it's important. If you have a loop bass line, change the second phrase so that it moves the song better. Like if you come up with something that's like, wow, that's catchy, that could be the heartbeat of the song. Make sure it's not like, make sure that heartbeat isn't like stale, like have it have some color so that the listener has like, okay, it's looped, but it's driving the rest of the song. And that was kind of my intention was I don't want people to get bored. Like I want people to know that like, oh, this is catchy, but it's driving whatever else is going on, which is the lead part and then the rhythm part. Do 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 do. Wait, I messed up. Do 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 do. It's different BPM on acoustic, I believe. And when I play it on the electric, I go. Do 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 do. It's hard to play on a acoustic without a cutaway. And I can't play it because it's hard to play on acoustic, but hopefully you can see my guitar. Let me make sure people can see what I'm playing. So I'm playing A, but what's cool is I can't play it that well. I'm on every alternate chord progression. Let me figure out which note this is. B, C sharp, D sharp, E. So so normal. Do 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 do. I should just get my electric. I'm gonna have my electric next stream. But essentially, it's like I do the same kind of mindset when I play lead over my rhythm. Is like I'm not like a great lead player over rhythm, but what I do is I'll make sure to add one note that's relevant to the chord that I'm playing. So like the listener knows that, oh yeah, like this isn't just the same thing over and over again. And I do that again with the bass line. Same philosophy. I added the B rather than just going up and down from the 1 to the 7 to the 6 to the 5. You're adding the 2. So and then it has the other part over top. Let me see what else I could talk about. Thank you for whoever's tuning in. It means a lot. Trying to learn how to do this, get better at teaching. Yeah, trying to learn how to touch grass rather than just like being a hermit, locking myself in my room. Been doing that for way too long. So if anyone has any questions, please ask away. Hello. I'm happy that people joined. I'm happy for however long you wanted to stay, for me rambling, playing guitar and whatever. But yeah, ask away if anyone has any questions. I'd be more than happy to answer them. Let me see what I want to do next. Let me pull up my Logic. I already touched on the percussive. I touched on the lead. Oh, maybe I'll touch on the vocals. I didn't even talk about the vocals. So the chorus is really cool too. So
These lights will shine upon you.
I'm just gonna play it with the background vocals.
Your beauty is above you. Aurora.
So maybe I'll talk a little bit about my mixing decision. I haven't really analyzed it too much, but with Aurora, since it's like the name of the song, I wanted it to have more color. So I added harmonies, and let me just show you. So rather than it just be like this, I'm going to mute the harmonies. It'll sound less, it'll emphasize the Aurora less. So maybe I'll play it through.
Aurora.
Rather than with this, it's like
Aurora.
I can't even do it, man. Aurora, Aurora,
Aurora. Aurora.
Yeah, and it kind of adds to this. So when you're, it's always good to add harmonies to something that you want to be emphasized. So
Aurora.
you can kind of hear it. And I'm typically somebody that likes a wetter lead vocal than a drier. So I sent more of the reverb send to the room, which it's supposed to be like the, I use the Valhalla room or whatever. But I want the lead to sound like it's in a room. There's a lot of music that, a lot of rap, they'll really stick the lead vocal like on top, but with something that's more atmospheric. Like there's a song "Cry" by Charlie Puth, and it's a great song, by the way. Like you can tell his lead vocal is more wet. It's probably not as wet as I usually make my lead. I'm usually somebody that like, I want it to sound like I'm in a music room and that my vocal's like the center of attention, but everything's like part of an atmosphere. But I'm trying to think of another one. There's a song "Perfect" by One Direction, and that's an example of something that's like a drier lead. It's something that like sticks out in front rather that's like more distant in the room. And usually with background vocals, which I didn't know this when I started mixing, was you want it to be kind of further. You want it to be like supporting the lead. And that was something that I initially didn't do. I want the lead vocal to sound as wet as possible. Like I want it to sound like it takes up the most space in the room. That's the goal. And yeah, when I make music in the future, I probably, which I'll just do it for effects, whatever. Maybe I'll put this at 13. It'll kind of sound, it won't sound like the lead's dominating as much. Let me see.
Aurora.
Yeah, that's really cool. It kind of like, it supports it more. And when I initially started out, I wanted my background vocals to sound like it's part of the lead, but that the lead gets the most attention. And yeah, I just think that's something to know. For yeah, if you're producing your own music, definitely in the future I'm probably gonna make my harmonies and my background vocals more wet, because that's like kind of like a standard for the music that most of the songs that come out. And I just like was like, I want to do my own thing. I want to have my own sound, which I do. So it's good to know. What else? Oh yeah, and then I background vocals. Let me talk about the background vocals. Pull this up. So the key command that I just did, it's pretty important to know if you're doing like small adjustments and you want to like keep track and make sure, oh, I made too many decisions, what did I do? You hit option command C, and you can also go up here and it'll show you your undo history. So but that's just the command for it. Is it? Yeah, it's option command Z. Yeah, and it'll let you see everything. And I'm typically someone who uses that a lot because I make a lot of small edits. I want the listener to really know that I put effort into it. It's not like I'm like, oh yeah, I just play the solo, no effects, no anything. I'm trying to make the listener feel something. And let me go back to the chorus. So I showed you, undid that. Maybe I'll solo it up to here. Solo the lead, and I'll solo the background vocals.
Aurora, 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 these lights will shine upon you. Your aura, your aura, your aura, your beauty is above you.
So yeah, background vocal, kind of. I wanted 3 different vocals. Like this was. I'm somebody that really. I'm not like a pop musician, but I really love the elements that pop music does, like vocals that are like repeated in a way. Or I'm not much of an ad libber, and maybe I'll ad lib more in the future. But the goal was to have something that like have one lead, which is like my normal voice with a harmony, so that it adds more emphasis on what I consider to be the heart of the song, which is Aurora and Your Aura, and I'll have the harmonies or whatever. But I kind of I'll just play the background vocals, so it'll do the Aurora,
Aurora, Aurora, Aurora, these.
And you're kind of like, when I think about background vocals, it's like there's 2 ways to think about it. Do I want it to be more treble or more bass? And with this one, it was like, I want it to demonstrate the theme of the song, which is fast chord changes, Aurora, 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 these lights will watch. These lights will shine upon you. Your aura, your aura, your aura, your beauty, your beauty. Keep messing up. I don't usually sing it with the background vocals. I wish I had an example of what that was inspired by. Honestly, that might have just been my like creative decision. This was a song that was very personal to me. It's probably my favorite song that I've written. And like I'm somebody that like, even though I consider my music to be solid, like I don't really like enjoy listening to it. And this is like the closest I've came to like really enjoying a song, or I'm trying to enjoy it. That's why I'm remastering it, because I felt like the initial mix, like the lyrics and everything, that the melody, the beat, everything that's in the song moves it in the right direction. But it was just like these stylistic things, such as like the lift at the end of the solo and the driving factor of the kick, which I think when I listened to it back, it came out a year ago. So over a year later, it's like, wow, like, yeah, like I could have done better. As much as I thought that like, oh yeah, this is the best I could do, like, no, there's always something you could do better. So let me see what else I'm gonna do. Yeah, and if you see with the background vocal too, what I did is, because it was something that was more trebly, I added more air to the top, so kind of like that glossiness slash like beginning to go to like harshness, sibilance, up to like the air quality. So it adds that, like it adds more high end to something that's already intended to be something more treble. And I know I keep saying the same thing, but and if you notice with the other one, I kind of shelved off the high end. So that was like my thought process behind it was okay, I want, you know, a lead vocal with harmonies that conjoin together to make something that's, sounds like pop like, and then something that's like lower and then higher. I like a contrast of dynamics in my song. And this is like one of the best examples that I think I've done. Okay. I think I'm done talking about this song, for now at least. I'm still trying to work on the remaster. If you have, give me a follow if you found this productive. Uh, yeah, if you want to listen to Aurora on its anniversary, please, please do it. Like a song, the experience that wrote that song was draining. Like it was to love somebody who doesn't reciprocate the love that you give is a very painful experience. It's a very painful experience, and that's why it's so personal. It's like, wow, like I just wanted to play guitar for this girl, and now I just want to play guitar for me, play for my relationship with God and whatever. But yeah, I was like, that was the mindset was, yeah, how do I get this chick to listen to my music? And it was like, maybe if I pretend like you know I'm solo in the fretboard or whatever, she'll hear me. I mentioned early, like that's the one part I'm trying to figure out is maybe it's just the battle between these two, because usually like you want things in different channels, and maybe this is what I'll talk about when for most instruments that you record, primarily like bass, guitar, and yeah, just bass and guitar. Piano, I'd have to pull up a track with piano. I don't have piano on any of these tracks. You want to pan them both left and right, hard left and right, so that it adds more stereo spread to the song. And stereo means just left and right. Mono is just center. And essentially, like, it adds more width. And if you're producing music, you want. I personally love something that doesn't sound like it's recorded in mono. It gets a little stale, and it gives more width, and width is so important. And yeah, so, and I mentioned that note is like you have to be careful with how you automate certain slopes. Sometimes you want a note to go up with automation based off of, I don't know, any type of tail end that is causing issues, or it, like in this case, is that, I wonder, that was what the issue was. So yeah, that was what was driving me crazy. Was I kind of like hit the strings a little bit. You can hear it's like and like 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 bot moment. Yeah, not everything's perfect. Even though I thought I cooked with a solo, I'm like, there's always mistakes that like you have to mask with either automation or whatever, and it's all part of production. Anyways, I'm going to talk about its predecessor, which is Third Time's a Charm. I wrote 3 songs about this girl. Aurora was the first one written, actually. I was the reality of the situation was unrequited love, you know, or that like the reality was that this person was never gonna have more of an impact in my life rather than like being part of a spark that made me want to do music. So let me. Is there any way I can close this? I'm gonna close the window. I don't need to save. It's okay right now. Yeah, if you have any questions, please ask away. I'd be happy to talk about stuff that's like not related to my music, but for the time being, I love music, so let me talk about Third Time's a Charm. Do 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 do. It's an independent study. Third Time's a Charm. Okay. Hopefully people can see it. That's a great question right now. Let me just double check TikTok. Nope, it's not popping up. Great. Yep. Why isn't there video signal? Why is it botting? Okay, let me undo. Nope. Forgive me, this is. Here we go. Now we're cooking. Now we're back. There we go. If people can't see, let me know. I'll try to adjust it so people can see what I'm doing or what's going on in the track. Okay, so this is Third Time's a Charm, and I capoed 4th fret, so it's in the key of B major. Cool. Let me pull up Logic real quick. So, yeah, I got inspired by this song. There's from Camp Rock, actually. There's a song called "Introducing Me" by Nick Jonas. He's one of the goats, or at least one of the Disney Channel goats. I don't know about like in real life, but yeah, he the girl that I wrote the song about, the one song that was playing in the car was Third Time, or was Introducing Me, and I always wanted to play for her in that kind of style, but since it's kind of like a tricky song to play. It has some stuff that like I could play it if I practiced. Didn't want to practice it. I wanted to come up with something new that I could play for her. Never got to play her the song. Again, Unrequited Love. It goes from B to I think this is E add 9. Shoot, what is this? And it's sus chords. What is this? So this is A. So shoot, I can't remember. I'd have to look up the chords. But those were my 2 inspirations. Was the song Introducing Me was capoed in 4th fret, so I wanted something to kind of have similar feel, or at least key, like similar key, color, or whatever. And for the actual style of the song, since I wasn't going to play the dun 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 dun, I wanted it to, the other song that it resembles is Wonderwall. So, it was like, wow, if, because that's a great song in general. So I took that same inspiration, was, and Wonder dun, 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 I forget Wonderwall, but I'm just gonna play it. Down, 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 up, down. Moon dances over on your good side, but you're not next to me, you're just on my mind. And I thought that if I just took my time, then you'd be here, your heart be mine. But you're not, a delusional state of mind, 'cause I channel my fears, now you're out of sight. And I wish that we kissed, oh well, my third time's a charm. My third time's the charm. Yeah, and also I took a little inspiration from Two Ghosts. I know Two Ghosts is in the key E, so it's like a little bit different. But that, especially that first lyric, there's a lyric in Two Ghosts which is literally, moon dances over on your good side. I can't remember. Let me look. Yeah, essentially, I that was like the inspiration, because I was like, wow, like if this person isn't my spouse, then we're not really who we used to be, as it says in that song, like, and uh, in reality, like, it just wasn't meant to be. So I'll just play it. Let me just play it through, and I'll talk about it. I always have. Yeah, definitely one of the coolest production things that I've done. Is this song particularly. So I combine the cemetery where my grandmother was buried, and I recorded the chimes that are there, and it kind of like you hear it sparsely throughout the song, but towards the end when everything's drowned up, it cuts through more. And the birds were from my backyard. I just went in my deck and I put a microphone out there, and yeah, it's cool. I should relearn all these again, dude. I wish I remembered how to play half these. I can't find the note. Why can't I find the note? It's this. Yeah, it's cool. So yeah, it goes from B up to E to all the way up to F sharp G. It might be G sharp. I think it's that. Yeah, because it's in the key of B. What's cool about it, I'll play it through. So oh wait, it's one more. So yeah, this is what I'll talk about, because the other bass line that I mentioned before is very different than this. This is, yes, it stays consistent, but it changes based off of the vibe of the song. So when I enter the "my third time's the charm" part, it goes from the, not the whole, so the whole note part is like, moon dances over on your good side, not next to me, just on my mind. And I wish that we kissed. Oh well, my third time's a charm. My third time. It's so hard to play bass and sing at the same time. But essentially, it's important to know that you can move a melody more by choosing to play eighth notes. So 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 E and, or there's a triplet at there. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. I'd have to figure out what I did on the bridge. I forget it. That's it. Okay, cool. Yeah, it took me a bit. So rusty. Yeah, I really wanted to play for this girl. That's what this song's about. Is like, so I wrote 3 songs. This is the middle child. This is the just like me. Yeah, that's cool. So I talked a little bit. Yeah, so I chose to do the chimes because initially this girl, the positive things about her was she reminded me a lot of my grandmother and like her mannerisms before she got dementia. So I wanted that emotional appeal factor that if we ever talked about it, I'd be like, yeah, did you listen to it? Not that she probably will. She didn't listen to me, like she didn't want to listen earlier, but um yeah, I wanted that emotional appeal factor. It's like for marketing, it's like you could really tell that I understood what like the assignment was, which was how do I touch this girl's heart? And that was one of the things we talked about. Was my grandmother one of the last times that we talked, and I was like, wow, how do I emphasize that? How do I draw emotional appeal? And then like through my backyard, it's like got the birds going. I wanted that real that real life factor, and I think that's always like the coolest thing that people do is like where they use audio from like a real life conversation and then they'll EQ it or compress it, maybe a little reverb depending on the situation to, you know, uh, yeah, provide authenticity to like an art form. Because music, you don't always have to like play notes, chords. Like there's some songs with great speaking portions. Like Everlong has that mumbled part where it's a I forget what he actually says. It's really cool though. It adds like little things like that add so much value. Not that it's a great song, but like adding that creative touch. And I actually took inspiration from Everlong, believe it or not. I'll show you right here. This is the first time people are gonna hear what I'm actually saying, but I wanted like whispers involved to like emphasize like subtweets or any type of like who's this song really about, and it's hidden. Like you can't, if in the full mix you probably can't make out what it says. So yeah, that's what I did. You can't really hear it, and I'll play it back through. Just I wanted to say what I said. So I kind of snuck that in there. So I wanted that to be like an Easter egg type thing, which I did it twice actually. I did it after the second verse. Because again, you want to think about a song from beginning to end, not like from, oh, you're just looping a chord progression and then, it's what's done is done. It's like, no, it's telling a story. And part of that story is like at the beginning, I'm saying last song on the album because it's just an EP without her, which I did. I wrote an EP for, to help her with her faith because we didn't share that. That was something that I kind of overlooked the importance behind a relationship and faith because I'm like, no, like, like my love of God's so prevalent. Like, why can't people see it? But it's not that big of a deal. And yeah, I wanted that sentiment to be included. That like, even though I had an album, like this song was important to write. And I actually released the album before, or I released the EP before the album because I was like, I want to have a religious impact, or I wanted to lead her closer to Jesus. That was like the whole importance of the EP. Well, my album is kind of like, it was written from a place of me feeling like I'm not enough. And I know now that I am, even though everything that I do is flawed to some degree. But I'll play through the second part. So I wrote this song in a day, believe it or not. This is probably the song I have on my album called My Life. I came up with the first two verses or the first three verses very quickly, but with this one it was like I knew exactly what to say. Maybe and yeah, I like went right through. I literally stopped making the album to write the song because I'm like, yeah, like I know exactly what to do. The other song, which is called "I'll Believe for You," and that's more of a faith based song rather than like, a romantic type song. So, but yeah, I said I really shouldn't have sent that, and that I don't regret sending what I sent. It's kind of water under the bridge, I guess, at this point, but I yeah, it involved a real life text exchange that didn't really I didn't feel echoed the sentiments of how I felt about her. Obviously because it wasn't reciprocated, but yeah, I wanted her to know like, hey, like this was how I really felt. Like I didn't mean harm. I never try to harm people. Like people have God-given value. I want to make a difference in their lives, and especially for those who have dealt with trying to pursue people with the factor of not being equally yoked. It was important to write this. You okay, Bubba? My dog's over there. Yeah, that's about it. Kind of have like a breathy vocal style on this. I'm somebody that has in the past a big substance abuse issue. I'm not going to shy away from it. I've had a lot of trauma in my life. Not that anybody else, trauma's a part of life, but I was a big smoker. And when I realized, like, hey, there might be a chance that I could have a relationship with this girl, I was like, wow, I got to drop smoking. And I was a little bit prideful about it. I did like a whole marketing campaign where I like wanted her to know like, hey, like I'm sober. Like, was that the issue? And that wasn't the issue. Shouldn't have been so naive, but Yeah, you don't have to force love. This was me trying to force love. And I did as best as I can. Love isn't something that's like, you know, it's it's not the same for everyone. And yeah. And then I'll talk about the electric. Maybe I'll go from verse 3. I'd have to learn it again. So same mentality, which it goes through the main part before it hits the my third time's a charm. And I'd have to look through my notes slash maybe mess around and oh, there it is. I already got it. Maybe I'll just play it through. See, this is really cool. Bot. Bot. Come on, man. So yeah, very very simple. I'm not really like I'm somebody that when I first started out music, I'm like I have to know every note where it's located on the fretboard, have to know the pentatonic, have to know the triads, the you know, the different types of modes, which you don't really need to know modes. Aside from maybe Mixolydian, like there's not really much to it's literally just the reverse order. And maybe I'll talk about that real quick. So let's say this is the key of B. So that's the major 3 note per string. B, C sharp, D sharp, E, S sharp, G sharp, A sharp, B. And the key of B, it's two naturals, which is B and E. It's the 1 and 4. But essentially modes for those that are interested. Let's say I'm starting with the second note in that key, which is C sharp. So this is Dorian. So no. C sharp, D sharp, E, F sharp, G sharp, A sharp, B. Very cool. Okay. Yeah, so essentially what you're doing is you're repeating that same scale, but you're just starting with a different root note. And it adds a different tonal center. And yeah, when I initially started playing, when I was like soloing, I'm like, wait, why can't I just, you know, if I'm playing whatever chord progression in the key of B, it doesn't sound right because it's not at the same tonal center But if you're playing like it would work better. So yeah, it's cool to know that. So maybe I'll pick an easier key. So in the key of C, it's C, D, E, F, G, A, B. If I was starting on, I'll do F. Where's F? F. I'm botted. Why can't I think of this through? No, because it's not. It's B. I'm completely losing my marbles. Cool. So B, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, B, A, G, F, E, D. B, C, D, E, F, B, C, D, E. Cool. But yeah, hopefully, yeah, if you found that useful, yeah, I hope somebody found that useful, because like modes, it's important to practice if you want to practice the 3 note per string scales. Like you have to understand that you're learning them to understand where the notes are in the fretboard in relation to that key, but you can also phrase it, use them as phrasing if somebody you're jamming and somebody's playing with a tonal center that's not either, the relative major or minor. Like you have, if one of the chords, let's say it's either the half diminished chord, so, but so yeah, if someone's playing half diminished, you could play Locrian, you know. So you could make up a lick from, you're not limited to, to stay in Locrian, but obviously when I was phrasing just now, I was alternating between the relative major and then just the mode. Yeah, big note spammer. Anyways, yeah. So I did the same thing with the bass line as the electric. Was just playing double stops. Botting. Okay. Getting a little tired, so I might call the stream in a bit, but I'm very happy people tuned in. I'll take anything. Yeah, like, yeah, I love music a lot. Let me see what I can talk. Maybe the background vocals. I even forget what I did on a lot of them. Okay, so something cool you can do with this song specifically, I do repeated background vocals to emphasize what's going on. So, and the first one is, if you don't believe me, then just ask why, but you don't. And I go, you don't. Oh well, my third time's the charm. And then I'm gonna add harmonies. So it's like you don't if you have a similar, I guess, tone of what you're going for with the background vocals, you can mix it in the same summoning stack, which I did. Um, I'm one that like usually you want your vocal to have a center and a left and a right. But if something's more atmospheric, I will deliberately leave out the mono so it sounds more spacious. And with the harmony, like I'll do that as well. So it's like, yeah, so I might pan it so you can see it. Maybe I'll just solo the vocals. So I'm going to play it through for. Then I just might die. Oh well. So yeah, I'm a big proponent. I talked about this earlier. Doing things that move the song. So I have the background vocals that emphasize certain phrases that are in the verse that add extra value. So you're like adding. I'm trying to think of how I want to describe this. You're moving the song by adding background vocals, and then you know when you're emphasizing another section, you're adding more dynamics. It all has to do with telling a story, and I mentioned this before. Um, Let me see what I want to do. So yeah, I did the same thing. Added harmonies. Safe philosophy. If you notice that, again, this is another example where the background vocals aren't as wet, so it kind of sounds like it's underneath rather than like it's far out in the room. Like it sounds like it's closer essentially, and that was just my style when I started mixing. But again, if you want the lead vocal, this one's particularly more wet. But if you want like the background vocal to be behind it and it just sounds more spacious, and you know that's what you would do. But that was again my style for at least my EP and my album. Was I didn't have any background vocals that were further than what the lead had in terms of reverb. Let me see what else I want to go. Oh yeah, maybe I'll mention this part. So initially, the plan was that I had a center and a left and right. But speaking, what I've learned is speaking's a little bit different. Like it doesn't translate the same as like a vocal where you're trying to get it as wide. You want it to be like as mono as possible. Like you don't want it to you don't want to run into phasing issues because it's not really the same as like a vocal or whatever. So initially there was a bridge left where I said I love you, but I initially just scrapped it. And yeah, I thought that kind of like resolves the tension well. And yeah, did a lot of cool things in the song. I might not touch on all of it. The drum part's really cool as well, but didn't actually play it. Definitely would be very challenging to play. I do some weird ride stuff that like I'd be like, bro, I'd have to really practice. I'll learn it eventually though. I definitely want to up my drum skills and whatever. But for now, I'm gonna play the bridge before I had and call the stream. So, if only, what is it? If only I could just reach your mind, we could have went on dates and just laughed sometime about these moments that seem to just pass us by. But I'm not giving up without giving it a try. 'Cause I love you, I always have. That's why I wrote this song. Yeah, so I'm not gonna play the rest through, but I thought I did a really good job on this part because, so like let's pretend it's in the key of B, so, or it's in the key of G. I kind of took that inspiration of going, you're going 1 to 4, and then these two suspended chords that I'm not 100% sure what they're called. Then you go to the 5, the 6, and what's cool about that part is like with the A minor 7, because the key or whatever this is a E, right? Yeah, this is an E. So if this wasn't, what is this? This is C sharp minor 7 to E. And you're sliding. Oh, very cool. So again, similar mindset of wanting to include the relative minor and the 5 of the key. I think like if you want to make something that's like indie or pop, that's not really like your basic chords, you want to stick with the 1, the 4, the 5, and the 6. And with this Monks particularly, I was like, wow, like I'm just staying at the 1 and the 4. Let me go to the 5, relative minor, and then you're kind of switching vibe from the C add 9, which has more notes, to the and that's the relative minor, so of E major is C sharp, so and I'm not 100% sure what chord this is, but the reason it works is like it's pedal tones. Pedal tones is like a rule in music where even if it's like not in the right key, if you're moving it based off of like the same shape or chord, like it kind of works. Like if I were to just climb from D to D sharp to E, well, it's not really D. So this would be B, E. If I were to go F sharp, G, G sharp, so none of those, these two are probably in the same key, but not really this. So but it works. It's like it's one of those like unspoken rules in music where either if you're descending or ascending in either a chord, a lick, whatever, it works because it's like it's musical. That's the beautiful thing about music is like there's rules, but a lot of them can be broken, and pedal tones is cool like that. So, and I got inspired. There's a song by Damien Rice, I believe it's called "Rootless Tree," and it I got inspired because I'm pretty sure he like slides up. I watched him slide up, and I was like, wow, I want to. One of my favorite artists, so I wanted to do something. And then at the end, one of the coolest things that I've done. I'm getting pretty tired. But I forget how I did it, but for whatever it might be, what did I do? It's a great question. Well, there's delay on it. That's probably part of it. Okay, so what's cool is with the outro part, it goes you hear the which is wait, it's called Rascuetas. It's like a Marson type technique, and I was big on that when I started. And rather than having it stay exactly, coherent, so it just sounds like that it sounds like, B B B. It You'll hear it in the left ear, then you'll hear it central, so you'll hear both left and right, and then just in the right ear. So I wanted that kind of producer vibe that like, oh yeah, it's not just I want to boast that I can do a pretty cool technique. It's more of like the song signaling an end, and it's you know it's all in threes. Like it's third time's a charm, three verses or whatever, three outro parts, and then there's I guess three terms of how it's panned. So I think that's cool. If you make music, it definitely that's something cool that you should try out. Is yeah, different instrumental portions becoming either panned, mono, or right. So yeah. Alrighty. I think I'm ahead. I hope people found that interesting. My song Third Time's a Charm's been out for a while. I might explain it a little better later because I kind of got tired like halfway through, and yeah, but I'm very thankful for just to learn something new each day and try my best. So yeah, till next stream, I'll be back soon.